Happy Iris West Day! Guys, it's your girl Aisha, aka Geek XX Chic, and I'm back with another review to The Flash. This was the Iris episode. Yes, hashtag Purple Rain, hashtag Run Iris Run. That was the name of this episode, and I really liked it. I liked this episode a lot. As I said in my reaction, did I like it as much as 15? Honestly, I think the format was a little bit better in 15 as far as the editing and the just kind of the way that whole episode was set up, but I still really like this episode. And what I like about it is that, as I said before, this was like a big love letter to the character of Iris West, but it didn't detract from the overall plot of the show and actually moving things along with DeVoe. So the fact they were able to do both was really, really great. And that's what made it really enjoyable for me. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. You know, I said at the beginning of my reaction that, you know, I like the idea of swapping. Like, lots of shows have done the whole idea of two characters or a bunch of characters swapping, whether it's bodies or abilities or just something where they get to literally walk in somebody else's shoes for a period of time. And these types of episodes tend to be really fun because obviously, you know, there's always some kind of hilarity in seeing how some people react to the way other people have to go about their lives. But it's also just really sweet to see the way that they kind of navigate being in somebody else's shoes and the understanding and perspective it gives for other people. And most importantly, I think, is the love, right? It usually strengthens bonds between people who are already quite close to really have that shared experience. Iris got the opportunity to see what it was like to be a speedster and see what all the fuss is about, you know, to have your husband and your brother both be speedsters, and Iris has been around a lot of speedsters thus far, to just get an understanding of what Barry actually experiences, how he feels, you know, some of the things he really enjoys about being the Flash, I think is something that is going to be invaluable to her as his partner in life, and also probably to help him in the future with other Flash type stuff. Let's go through, I have some notes about the actual arc of the story as far as where it goes with DeVoe and everything else, and then I'll get to the Irish, I always say this, I'll get to the Iris/Patton gush fest towards the end of the video, so for any of you who are not there for that, or not here for it, you'll have time to leave, okay? First, I guess we might as well just talk about Matthew Kim, because he kind of is the linchpin in a couple of things. Matthew has this really crazy, unique ability. Very interesting, because in the beginning I thought he knew that he was swapping powers, but I guess he just thought that he was taking them. He was just like absorbing them and taking them away from people. But it's, you know, it's kind of the whole law of physics, right? You can't like take something from nothing or create, you know, something from nothing. So he was just moving those powers from one person to the next. And there's a lot of theories I guess I have on what he would want Matthew for. Actually, that makes me wonder, could he pick and choose, like now that he's absorbed 9 different types of meta abilities, and 10 if you include his own, would he be able to pick and choose which powers he swapped? Let's say he saw a power that he wanted. Could he say, oh, you know, Kilgore's power is not that helpful to me, so let me swap that out for... Could he do that? I wonder. Anyways, if you guys have some theories as to why he would want Matthew's power or how it could be beneficial to him, especially if it works as a give and take, please leave your comments below. I'm not sure who his character is in the comic books. Melting Point is the name Cisco gave him, so any info you could give, you know I love that stuff. Please leave it below. Back to Matthew. I am so happy that he's there and that it looks like he may be potentially part of Team Flash. We'll see how long it lasts. I mean, if we take what happened to Cowgirl there a couple weeks ago, she didn't last more than half an episode, so I'm hoping we get to keep him. And one of the main reasons I want this is because, hello, Asian character, like, I am more than happy to see my brothers and my sisters on television and on superhero shows, and you know, obviously with all the buzz around Black Panther, you know, I'm basking in the glow of seeing melanated people on screen. But one of the areas where we don't see nearly enough superheroes, in my opinion, is, you know, Asian Asian people? Why do we not see more Asian superheroes out there? I think we could definitely add Matthew Kim to the roster. Now, then there's Harry's continued saga with his ego and DeVoe. I mean, I completely understand Harry's frustration. He really, really wants to help Team Flash, but he's an intellectual. He's prided himself on being a little bit smarter than everybody. 7 PhDs. And the fact that there's this man out there that's continuously just outthinking him on every turn, he's kind of become obsessed. Not even kind of. He's become obsessed with outthinking DeVoe, which obviously is not going to be possible with a human brain, no matter how advanced it is. And so him recreating the thinking cap, I think, is very interesting, because we heard the term neural inhibitor, right? We saw that last week, that Harry created the neural inhibitor. It didn't work. But maybe the neural inhibitor is not that first attempt. Obviously it's not, because it didn't work on DeVoe. Maybe the thinking cap, right? Why not? Like, we don't know what the neural inhibitor looks like. We don't know how it was created. We just know that Harry was involved. So maybe this thinking cap, or some variation thereof, is going to be what's going to be necessary. And now on to the Iris West / Candice Patton appreciation portion of the video. Once again, if neither of those things are of interest to you, I will not have any hurt feelings if you decide to drop off now, but be warned, I'm about to just sit here and bask in the glory of the Queen just for a little bit. So I mentioned in my last review video that there is just, my respect for Candice Patton is through the roof, because she's dealt with a lot of negativity over this character ever since she got this role, which should have been super exciting from beginning to end. But there's a teeny tiny corner of the fandom that just refuses to accept that this beautiful woman has this amazing opportunity because she doesn't look like the Iris West that they knew from the comics. And she's just handled it with so much grace and style and just general amazingness that you can't do anything but respect the girl. And she's always been so supportive of this show and of all the other characters on this show, including her own character, Iris West. An episode like this was the just desserts that Iris West has deserved all along, but also Candice Patton deserves as being the lead actress of this show. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed that it was something that allowed Iris to shine. It allowed us to see more of another side to Iris. Like, I already knew that she was smart, and I already knew that she was caring and supportive, but we also got to see her in this episode be daring and bold. And I mean, we did get to see some of that to a teeny tiny degree in season 2, but it's always kind of been backburnered. They've always kind of put Iris in the context of being behind the men in her life in the past, and I've definitely lamented this in the past. And I love that this season has been more about Iris being Iris. Like, she spent 6 months while Barry was in the Speed Force running Team Flash, helping everybody do what they needed to do to keep Central City as safe as they could without having Barry to rely on or his speed. But she wasn't waiting around to be told what to do. She didn't sit around twiddling her thumbs being the poor widow who had to, wait for her husband to come back. She very much was just there kicking butt as Iris Westallen and doing just the best job of it. And I think what's really sad about a lot of superhero shows when it comes to women in particular is that a lot of times women either have to be that super, spandex wearing badass who doesn't care about anybody and doesn't need relationships, and, she's always walking around tough and buff, and that's all well and good. Like, you can definitely have that kind of superhero, but if you're a woman who's not in that particular role, a lot of times, especially in comic books, they don't seem to know what to do with you, right? And so with Iris, she isn't the girl wearing the tight outfit, and she's not walking around, being, and honestly, as a black woman in America on a show like this, I'm so glad they didn't put her into that, because the second Iris is, strong and tough and assertive, they would have all kinds of stereotypes to label her with. But she wasn't that person. She was always the support system for Barry and for her father and for anybody else who she really cared about. But in this episode, she got to be the star. Iris got to have a little bit of fun in this world that her man and her friends all get to play in. And what I loved about it is that even though Iris had this opportunity to do some really cool stuff, you know, the speed and really appreciate what it is that Barry gets to live every single day, we didn't see her getting crazy, like, exuberant about it. And I was a little worried then, like, oh, please don't make this a thing where maybe Iris is gonna be like, all right, I got speed, I can be the Flash now, let me at him, let me do this, let me do that, let me go out there and do this. Like, it wasn't excessive. I really liked that she played it very chill. Like, she wasn't even the one to go out and, like, do anything with that first call with the fire. It was Caitlin, who, thank you so much for the girl power, shout out as well, writers, for having Caitlin be fully supportive of Iris and saying, hey, why not? Like, she's got Barry's powers. We all know that that's 80% of what makes Barry the crazy superhero that he is. Let her go out there and do, like, see if she can do something. Like, why not? And so, but I like that she wasn't the first one to be like, yeah, I can do it, let me get out there. Even though she had something to prove to herself in this episode, which she explained to Barry, you know, there is that fear that maybe she isn't doing as much as the rest of the team because she's the girl at the console. But again, I feel like I love these writers, because that right there, the whole thing that Ralph said about, oh, you just sit here while everybody else goes out and you don't do anything. If you don't think that that wasn't directly plucked from some of the nonsensical things out there that the Iris haters have been saying for years. The shade, okay? I love these writers. I love that they're taking all of the stuff that they've been saying about Iris for years and just debunking them one after the other. Knocking them all. You line them up, writers are knocking them down. I love that, you know, even though she heard those words from Ralph, and like I said, she's, you know, her character has been getting that from some parts of the fandom for years, this episode addressed all of that and was like, no, actually, she is very vital, and that your contribution to anything doesn't necessarily have to be based in how strong or fast or your physical abilities per se. Iris is there. She is a grounding presence to Team Flash, and she's shown that time and again. She's very much like Joe in that respect, in that she's the kind of person that can put things in perspective and who can also put others' needs above her own when necessary. And that's a very important thing to have on a team full of people who are, let's face it, like, they're all a little bit egotistical. They all kind of get wrapped up in their heads and their powers and in their PhDs and all their degrees. And those are all great things, but sometimes you need someone who's a little bit more grounded and seeing things from a different perspective to kind of bring that picture all together in a much better fashion. And that's who Iris is to this team. Even though she was put in this role this week where, you know, she was challenging the idea that being behind the desk is a lesser role, she still wasn't careless or reckless. She very much wanted to be smart about this, and she was conscientious the entire time that this was killing Barry inside a little bit, right? Even though Barry was, and I love that too. I'm like, oh, please, that was the other thing I was afraid of. I'm like, please, writers, don't make Barry be all jealous and you know, kind of mad about this in this episode. Because it could be, you know, we saw in season 2, I think it was, where Barry lost his powers for a spell, right? And he was real salty. He was really salty for a while about being human again. But I like that, you know, even though this was different, it wasn't like his powers were just gone. They were actually given to somebody else. I love that Barry, even though he was struggling with it, his primary concern was making sure that Iris was okay and that she was adjusting well, and you know, he was just very supportive of her. And when he heard her reasons behind why she wanted to get out there and do things with these powers, that he wasn't like, you know, well, no, like, you're still not ready. He was like, no, you know what? I hear you, boo, and I support you. And I love that part when he was like, go get him. Right? That was so sweet. I liked seeing Iris' speedster. I love that she got to do all the cool things. Like, the writers were like, let's not just have her run around. Let's let her do the arm spinny thing, and let's let her run on water and do some of the cooler things that Barry gets to do. So she just kind of gets a good, you know, I think that for a taste of the Flash, she got a really good, dip in there and a good feel for what it's like to be Barry and a good appreciation. And she can look back on that and go, you know, it was a time that I ran on water. Tell that to the great grandkids. You know, the Westallen moments that brought out. I mean, as I mentioned before, having Barry be so supportive of Iris was everything. I love that because she's always been supporting Barry. And I love there was that tender moment, you know, when Barry was like, you know, again, justifiably feeling bad about things that are happening, hearing that he's probably not going back to work anytime soon, hearing that, you know, DeVoe they're still no closer to defeating DeVoe, and then his powers being taken away. And like, after just getting out of prison, like, you completely understand where Barry is coming from. You empathize so much with what he's going through. But I love that Iris just kind of came up to him and was like, babe, I feel you, but since we don't know how to fix this, let's just, you know, you be here and support me the way that I've always sat back and supported you. And, you know, till we fix this. Having Barry have to know what it's like to be sitting at that console feeling helpless while Iris is out there trying to do, you know, do what she has to do. You know, I hope that that really gives Barry a better perspective on what Iris goes through and how strong she has to be sitting at that console knowing that the people that she cares about are out there doing things that she can't. The other thing that I absolutely adored, I love my babies. I love my babies so much. I loved that when they got Matthew Kim back and he was like ready and he's like, okay, you know, I can do my thing. And he's like, do you want to do this? And I love that Barry turned to Iris, even though he was completely dressed in his Flash suit. Let's be real. He had the whole outfit on. We know where his heart was, but I love that he looked to her with all sincerity and said, it's up to you, Iris. Do you know how big that is? Like, no, seriously, people. Do you know how big that is? Do you know? For all y'all out there that are doubting how serious Barry Allen is about Iris West, all y'all out there who might be doubting whether or not these two are staying together forever, for all of y'all out there who still have some crazy idea that these two are not the gold standard, strike that. Bartholomew Henry Allen looked at his wife, the love of his life, in dead seriousness and told her that in that moment, with that question, with that statement, he said to her, if you want to keep the speed, this thing that I've been given, this thing that I love so much, that has been a part of me for so long and feels like it's been a part of him forever, he left that decision in the hands of Iris and Westallen. There is nothing in this world that Barry loves more than his speed, except for Iris. And it was proven in that one statement, and it was beautiful. She just, without question, was just like, you know, I had a great time. It was a blast. I totally get it, but she knew how much Barry's speed meant to him. And she would never take that away from him, no matter how tempting it might have been. But I just loved it. That moment's just one of those, it's subtle, it wasn't over the top, but to me it spoke volumes about the depth and the amazingness of the Westallen relationship, and this is why I love these two so much. That was beautiful, as well as the little moment they had at the end, and I'm so glad, guys, Iris is writing again. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Writers, for recognizing that Iris not being a reporter was a gaping hole in this show. And in earlier interviews that Candice did before this season started, one of the biggest questions she got from her fans was, is Iris gonna be, you know, is she gonna be a reporter again? Is Iris going back to being a reporter? Does she get to do this thing again? Because everyone knows how much reporting means to Iris. And I'm so glad the show was like, let's not, like, why did we stop this? Like, even if she isn't working for CCPN, why is she not journaling? Why is she not still working on stories on her own? There's no reason she can't do both. So I love that they brought that back, and I'm so happy that we're going to get to see, I mean, I don't think we're going to get to see her full-fledged reporter like we did in season 2, but I'm glad that they've got her back to her roots of writing again, because I'm a writer and I absolutely know how important it is to get that out of your system, and also to give Iris something of her own outside of Team Flash, because while that's great, and she is, as proved by this episode, invaluable, she's also her own person, and she deserves to have her own thing, just like everybody else in the team has their own thing as well. I said a lot, but there was a lot to say. I enjoyed this episode. I'm so thankful. I know the writers will never see this, but thank you so much, Flash writers, for this episode. I loved seeing Candice get to shine like this and have some fun with the superhero side of things, but I also just love that you're addressing how much the show appreciates this character and appreciates Candice's contributions as the actress in this show, and I'm 100% here for it. It was great. What did you guys think? And how do you feel about the whole idea of, you know, human staying human and meta staying meta? Like, you know, are you good with that, or do you feel like it'd be cool if Iris got powers permanently? Also, big question, as I mentioned earlier in this video, what do you think DeVoe would do with a power swapper? What do you think he would do if he could swap DNA? How do you think he would use it? Please leave your theories below. Let's conspire together, shall we? And if you like this video, guys, please go ahead and click that like button. If you want to see more from this geeky face, please click subscribe. Until next time, see ya!